On a devastated alien moon, a human rescue pilot discovers an injured alien woman trapped inside an impact crater. She is bound in an unfamiliar restraint system and repeatedly begs him not to remove it. He initially believes the restraints are imprisoning her, but gradually discovers they are actually suppressing something inside her that could destroy an entire civilization. The deeper mystery is why she trusts a human she has never met, why her restraints respond to human biology, and why an ancient alien civilization appears to have designed its final defense around humanity. The moon had no name that mattered. Human survey maps called it Kepri 9, a barren satellite orbiting a gas giant 3 light-years beyond the edge of established human space. To Lieutenant Elias Vance, it was simply another dead rock, another place where corporations send machines before eventually sending people to recover what the machines found. His shuttle descended through a sky the color of bruised metal. Static crawled across the cockpit displays. Atmospheric turbulence increasing. His navigation system warned. Elias tightened his harness and stared through the forward window. Below him stretched an endless landscape of black mountains and pale dust. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. According to the missing expedition's final transmission, there should have been a research station somewhere beneath those mountains. There was nothing. Of course, Elias muttered. He had spent 14 years in rescue operations. 14 years learning that missing people rarely disappeared in interesting ways. Most died because equipment failed, someone made a mistake, or an environment proved less forgiving than expected. Alien mysteries were usually just broken machinery and bad decisions. Then his sensor chimed. Elias frowned. A biological reading had appeared beneath the crater ahead. He checked it twice. 1 life sign. His hands went still. Kepri Control, this is Vance. I've got a possible survivor. Only static answered. He tried again. Nothing. The signal disappeared. Elias looked at the crater. It was enormous, nearly 10 kilometers across, with a strange metallic glow spreading through its center. He should have turned back. Instead, he descended. The shuttle landed hard against the crater floor. Elias grabbed his helmet, rifle, and emergency medical kit before stepping outside. The wind screamed across the surface. He moved toward the coordinates. The deeper he went, the stranger the terrain became. Fragments of black metal protruded from the ground. They were not part of the missing human expedition. Their surfaces were smooth and impossibly old, covered in symbols that seemed to shift whenever Elias looked directly at them. Then he saw her. She was lying at the bottom of a shallow depression beneath a collapsed section of metallic debris. At first, Elias thought she was human. Then her eyes opened. They were silver. Not reflective. Silver. The woman tried to move, but a series of black restraints around her arms and torso tightened instantly. Elias raised his rifle. The woman stared at him. For several seconds neither moved. Then, in a weak voice, she spoke. Human. Elias lowered the rifle slightly. You speak standard? Her breathing became faster. She looked terrified, not of him, but of something beneath her own skin. Please! Elias stepped closer. What happened to you? Her gaze fell toward the restraints. Don't take it off. Elias crouched beside her. You're injured. I need to remove the restraints. No. The word came with such desperation that Elias stopped. Listen to me, he said. You're bleeding. I know. I can save you. Her silver eyes locked onto his. For the first time, Elias saw something beyond fear. He saw certainty. Human, she whispered. If you want me to live. A faint red glow traveled through the restraints. Don't untie me. Elias stared at the alien woman. Behind him, somewhere beneath the crater floor, something enormous began to wake. And for the first time since arriving on Kepri 9, Elias realized the missing expedition might not have vanished. It might have been hiding. From her. Or from whatever was coming for her. The first thing Elias noticed was that the alien woman was not afraid of him. She was afraid of what he might do. That distinction mattered. He kept his rifle lowered while activating the medical scanner on his wrist. A blue grid passed over her body, highlighting fractures, internal bleeding, and severe tissue damage. "Your left lung is partially collapsed," he said. "You've lost a lot of blood." "I know. You're going to die if I don't treat you." "I know." Elias stared at her. "You have an irritating habit of repeating yourself." For the first time, something resembling amusement crossed her face. Then she coughed. Blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. Elias immediately opened his emergency kit. "I'm going to stabilize you. Do not remove the restraints." "I heard you. Human." "I said I heard you." He carefully cut away the torn material around her injuries without touching the black bands wrapped around her body. The restraints were unlike anything Elias had seen. They weren't metal. They weren't entirely physical. Their surfaces seemed to flow like liquid glass, occasionally revealing lines of red light beneath them. Symbols moved across their surface in patterns that made his scanner malfunction. He tried scanning one. The scanner shut down. Elias frowned. "That shouldn't happen." The alien woman's eyes followed him. "What is your name?" "Lieutenant Elias Vance." She repeated it slowly. "Elias. And you?" "My name is Sarah." "Sarah what?" She hesitated. "Sarah Vayer." "Species?" "Vale." Elias looked at her. "I've never heard of the Vale." "You were not supposed to." That answer bothered him. Before he could ask what she meant, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the crater walls. Elias froze. Sarah closed her eyes. "No." "What?" "They found me." "Who?" She didn't answer. The ground shook again. This time, Elias heard something. A deep mechanical groan came from beneath the crater. He stood and turned toward the metallic wreckage surrounding them. Several pieces of debris began moving. Not falling. Moving. Panels unfolded from the ground like enormous mechanical flowers. Elias's helmet display filled with warning symbols. "Multiple contacts," his suit announced. Sarah grabbed his wrist. "Do not let them touch me." Elias looked down at her hand. Her fingers were trembling. "What are they?" "Your machines." "My machines?" "The expedition?" Elias's stomach tightened. The missing human expedition had been here. And whatever remained of it was now waking up. A machine rose from beneath the dust. It was 6 meters tall, constructed from angular black armor and covered in human expedition markings. Elias recognized the logo immediately. Orion Deep Survey. The corporation that had hired the missing scientists. The machine's head rotated. A red sensor locked onto Elias. Then another sensor locked onto Sarah. A targeting tone sounded. Elias shoved himself between them. "Hey!" The machine fired. Elias threw himself sideways. The crater erupted behind him. He hit the ground hard. "Elias!" Sarah's voice sounded distant. He rolled behind a piece of debris as another shot tore through the ground. His rifle was already in his hands. He fired. The round struck the machine's armor and bounced away. "Great," he muttered. He switched to electromagnetic ammunition. The machine advanced. Elias fired again. The pulse struck its chest. For half a second, the machine stopped. Then it kept walking. "Of course." A second machine emerged. Then a third. Sarah suddenly screamed. The black restraints around her body lit up. A wave of red energy exploded outward. The machines stopped. Their weapons shut down. One by one they collapsed. Silence returned to the crater. Elias slowly lowered his rifle. Sarah was breathing heavily. The red light beneath her restraints faded. Elias stared at the destroyed machines. "What did you just do?" Sarah looked away. "I warned you. That wasn't an answer. It was the only answer I can give." Elias approached her. The restraints were glowing faintly. His scanner suddenly activated by itself. A single line appeared. "Neural suppression system, active." Elias's expression changed. "These aren't restraints. Sarah said nothing. They're suppressing something. Still nothing. What are they suppressing? Sarah finally looked into his eyes. Me. Before Elias could respond, his communications system crackled. A human voice came through. Lieutenant Vance, this is Commander Rice aboard the Resolute. We have your position. Elias looked toward the sky. A second spacecraft appeared through the clouds. Not a rescue ship. A heavily armed corporate vessel. Rice continued. Stand down and prepare the alien for extraction. Elias glanced at Sarah. She had gone completely pale. Who are they? He asked. Sarah whispered. The people who came here to kill me. Elias stared at the ship. You're telling me a human corporation wants you dead? No. Sarah's eyes lifted toward the sky. They want what happens when I die. A cold silence settled over the crater. Elias raised his transmitter. Commander Rice, explain. The answer came immediately. Lieutenant, step away from the alien. Elias didn't move. Rice's voice hardened. You don't understand what you're protecting. Elias looked at Sarah's restraints. Then at the dead machines. Then at the enormous crater surrounding them. No, he said quietly. I don't. Sarah closed her eyes. But I'm starting to. The crater shook again. This time, the sound beneath them was not mechanical. It sounded like something breathing. Rice's voice came through one final time. Vance? There was fear in his voice now. Whatever you do, do not remove those restraints. Elias looked at Sarah. She opened her eyes. And for the first time, the alien woman smiled sadly. Now you understand. The ground split open beneath them. The ground split open beneath them. Elias grabbed Sarah and pulled her away as a crack raced across the crater floor. Something moved beneath the surface. Not a machine. Not a ship. Something alive. The crack widened, revealing a darkness so deep Elias's suit sensors could not measure it. Get up, he ordered. Sarah tried. Her legs buckled. Elias caught her before she fell. You said you could walk. I lied. That makes two of us. He pulled her arm over his shoulder and began moving toward the shuttle. Above them, the Resolute descended through the clouds. Dozens of landing pods launched from its underside. Elias looked up. You brought an army? Commander Rice answered through the calm. We brought containment. That isn't what your weapons say. Lieutenant, you are standing beside a Class 0 existential threat. Elias glanced at Sarah. She looked exhausted. She's injured. She's a weapon. She has a name. Silence. Then Rice said, So did everyone she killed. Sarah closed her eyes. Elias stopped walking. You killed people? I did not. Rice's voice came through. She doesn't know what she is. Sarah looked at Elias. He is telling the truth. That surprised him. She continued quietly. My people died because of me. Because of the restraints? Because of what is beneath them. Elias looked toward the crater. The darkness below had begun glowing. What is the crown? Sarah's face tightened. How do you know that name? You said it before? I did. You did. She stared at him for several seconds. Then she whispered, I don't remember. That frightened Elias more than anything else. The first landing pods touched down. Human soldiers emerged wearing heavy exocets. Their weapons immediately locked onto Sarah. Elias raised his rifle. Don't. A soldier's targeting laser appeared across his chest. Commander Rice spoke. Move away from the alien. No. This is your final order. Elias looked at the crater. Then at the soldiers. Then at Sarah. He lowered his rifle. Not because he surrendered. Because he had another idea. Fine. He stepped aside. Sarah stared at him in confusion. The soldiers advanced. Elias suddenly kicked a loose piece of alien metal into the nearest soldier's legs. The armored figure stumbled. Elias fired an electromagnetic pulse. 3 soldiers collapsed. The rest opened fire. Elias dragged Sarah behind a ruined wall. Was that your plan? She asked. No. Then what was it? Survive long enough to make one. For the first time, Sarah laughed. It was brief. Almost human. Then the crater screamed. Every soldier stopped. The sound was not audible through the atmosphere. It came through their bones. One soldier dropped his weapon. Another began bleeding from the nose. The corporate commander shouted over the comm. Fall back! Too late. The black restraints around Sarah's body began opening. 1, 2, 3 locking mechanisms released. Sarah screamed. Elias grabbed her shoulders. Stay with me! I can't! Look at me! Her silver eyes opened. For an instant, Elias saw something else inside them. Stars. Millions of stars. Then a voice spoke through every communication channel. We remember you. Elias froze. The voice wasn't Sarah. It wasn't human. It wasn't mechanical. Rice whispered. Oh God. Sarah's expression changed. What? Rice sounded terrified. It knows we're here. Elias looked toward the sky. The stars above Kepri 9 were disappearing. Not being covered by clouds. Disappearing. One by one. Blackness spread across the heavens. Sarah whispered. The hunger. Elias looked at her. What is that? My people called it many things. Another restraint unlocked. She gasped. The hunger beyond stars. The soldiers began retreating. Elias noticed something strange. The entity was not attacking them. It was watching. Learning. Sarah looked at him. My people discovered it centuries ago. It exists outside normal space. It cannot enter our universe by itself. Then how does it get in? She looked down at the remaining restraints. Through us. Elias understood. The crown. Sarah nodded. It needs a mind capable of holding the connection. And that's you? Yes. Why? Because I was made for it. The final restraint remained locked. Elias stared at it. Then why haven't they killed you? Sarah's expression became bitter. Because they tried. She pointed toward the underground facility. My people discovered that the crown could not be destroyed. So they put it inside you. No. She touched the restraint. They put me around it. Elias felt a chill. The restraints weren't imprisoning Sarah. Sarah was imprisoning something else. A signal suddenly appeared on Elias's helmet. Coordinates. Deep beneath the crater. He recognized the location. The missing expedition. They found the facility, he whispered. Sarah shook her head. No. She looked toward the opening in the crater. They opened it. Elias turned toward the soldiers. Everyone into the shuttle! Rice's voice snapped through the comm. Vance, what are you doing? Saving your life. You don't understand the situation. Neither do you. Elias pulled Sarah toward the shuttle. Rice ordered his troops to stop them. But then the underground facility activated. A massive structure rose from beneath the crater. It was not human. It was not merely Veil. It looked ancient enough to have existed before the moon itself. A projection appeared above it. Thousands of alien civilizations flashed across the sky. Some resembled insects. Some were crystalline. Some were vaguely humanoid. Each civilization appeared for a few seconds, then vanished. Sarah stared upward. My people. Another civilization appeared. Others. Another. More. Elias watched them disappear. What happened to all of them? Sarah answered with a whisper. The same thing that will happen to you if you make the mistake we made. Elias turned toward her. What mistake? Sarah looked directly into his eyes. We believed we could control it. The final restraint began glowing. A countdown appeared across Elias's visor. 0:59. Sarah's breathing became rapid. Get away from me. No. Elias. I said no. You don't understand. Then explain. She stared at the countdown. When that reaches 0, the crown will choose a new host. Elias looked at the soldiers. Then at Sarah. Because humanity might be the only species reckless enough to try. Who? Sarah's expression broke. She whispered. Whoever understands it first. The countdown continued. 041. Elias looked at the impossible machine beneath the crater. Then at the alien woman who had begged him not to untie her. And he finally understood why she had been waiting for a human. Not because humanity could save her. The countdown reached 30 seconds. Elias stared at the glowing restraint around Sarah's chest. Tell me how to stop it. Sarah shook her head. You can't. That's not an answer. It is the only answer. 27 seconds. Behind them, the ancient structure continued rising from the crater. Its surface unfolded in enormous rings, revealing a chamber at its center. The chamber was empty. Waiting. Commander Rice's voice crackled through the calm. Vance, listen carefully. The facility is powering up. We have detected an artificial singularity beneath it. Elias looked at Sarah. She was trembling. Can you shut it down? No. Can you control it? No. Then what can you do? Sarah looked at him. I can become the door. Elias felt his stomach tighten. And then? I let it through. The countdown reached 20 seconds. Elias grabbed her shoulders. You said your people imprisoned it. They did. You said it cannot enter our universe. It can't. Then why is it coming? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Because someone has to invite it. Elias understood. The crown wasn't opening automatically. It was searching for a conscious mind willing to connect with it. And the restraints were preventing Sarah from making that choice. The remaining restraint began to open. Elias pressed his hands against it. No. Sarah stared at him. What are you doing? Improvising. You humans always say that before disaster. It's worked so far. The restraint emitted a burst of energy. Elias's gloves began burning. He refused to let go. The system reacted to his touch. For a moment, the red symbols changed. They became white. Sarah gasped. What did you do? I don't know. The crown stopped opening. The countdown disappeared. Everything went silent. Then Elias heard a voice. Not through his helmet. Inside his mind. Why? Elias staggered. He saw darkness. Then stars. Then worlds. He saw civilizations rise and disappear. He saw the veil building machines. He saw them discovering the entity. He saw their scientists communicating with it. He saw the first veil mind connect. And he understood. The entity was not attacking civilizations because it hated them. It was learning them. Every memory. Every language. Every emotion. Every invention. It absorbed everything until nothing remained that it did not understand. Then it moved on. Elias saw Sarah as a child. He saw her people teaching her that curiosity was dangerous. He saw the day they placed the restraints around her. He saw her escape. He saw her traveling across dead systems. And finally, he saw something impossible. A human signal. Ancient. Weak. But still traveling through space. The veil had detected humanity centuries earlier. They had studied Earth. They had watched human wars. Human music. Human exploration. Human beings looking at the stars and asking questions no one had asked before. The entity had noticed too. Elias opened his eyes. Sarah was staring at him. You saw it? Yes. What did you see? Everything. She stepped backward. That is impossible. Elias looked at his hands. The symbols on the restraint were still glowing white. It talked to me. Sarah's face went pale. What did it say? Elias swallowed. It asked why. Why what? Why we continue? Sarah slowly understood. She looked toward the ancient structure. The entity doesn't understand us. Elias shook his head. No. He looked at the endless stars. It understands everything. Then he corrected himself. Everything except why humans keep going. Commander Rice interrupted. Vance! Whatever you're doing, stop! Elias ignored him. Rice, how many ships do you have? 6. How many people? 240. Get them away from the crater. Why? Because I'm going to make the worst decision of my life. Rice paused. Then, what decision? Elias looked at Sarah. I am going to let it see us. Sarah's eyes widened. No. Why not? Because once it understands you, it will consume you. Then it won't understand me. What? Elias smiled faintly. That is the trick. He remembered something from his military training. No plan survived contact with the enemy. So don't give the enemy a plan. Give it chaos. Humanity had millions of cultures. Billions of individuals. Contradictory beliefs. Conflicting memories. Different languages. Different definitions of love. Different definitions of truth. Humanity was not one mind. It was billions of minds arguing about what reality meant. The entity had consumed civilizations by understanding them. Elias would give it something it could never completely understand. Humanity. Sarah, he said, can you connect me to the crown? Her expression hardened. No. You said it needs a mind. It needs a compatible mind. You just watched it enter mine. That doesn't mean you're compatible. Then why did the restraints stop when I touched them? She had no answer. Elias stepped closer. Sarah. She looked at him. Trust me. She almost laughed. You are asking an alien to trust a human while standing beside the doorway of an entity that destroyed my civilization. Yes. That is insane. I know. A tear rolled down her cheek. Then she reached for his hand. Their fingers touched. The crown opened. Light exploded across the crater. Elias screamed. Sarah screamed with him. Every human ship in orbit lost power. Every computer on Earth flickered. Across the galaxy, ancient ruins suddenly awakened. The entity entered. But it did not enter Sarah. It entered the connection between them. For one terrifying moment, Elias felt billions of minds rushing through his consciousness. Humanity. Every fear. Every dream. Every act of kindness. Every betrayal. Every ridiculous joke told in the middle of war. Every child asking why the stars existed. Every scientist refusing to accept an impossible answer. Every dying soldier thinking about home. The entity tried to understand. It searched. It analyzed. It consumed memories. But every memory led to another. Every answer created another question. Every human contradicted another human. The entity became confused. For the first time in its existence, it encountered something it could not reduce. A civilization that was not one thing. A species that refused to behave according to a single pattern. Elias heard the entity scream. Not with sound. With thought. You are chaos. Elias smiled. No. He looked at Sarah. We're complicated. The entity attempted to withdraw. Elias held the connection. Sarah understood immediately. If you hold it, she whispered, you'll be trapped. I know. Elias, you'll never come back. He looked at her. Neither will you. She shook her head. No. Elias tightened his grip. Then we're even. The crown began collapsing. The ancient facility shook. The stars returned. The entity retreated beyond the boundary of normal space. But Sarah remained connected. Elias could feel her slipping away. He reached for her. Don't go. She smiled. You told me not to untie me. I remember. Then don't. The connection shattered. Elias woke on the crater floor. The ancient structure was gone. The soldiers were unconscious. The Resolute hung damaged in orbit. Sarah was nowhere to be seen. Only one black restraint remained in Elias's hand. He stared at it. Then his helmet crackled. A faint voice whispered through the static. Elias. He closed his eyes. Sarah? Silence. Then, I'm still here. The transmission vanished. Elias looked toward the stars. Humanity had survived. But he knew better than to call it victory. Something beyond the universe now knew humanity existed. And humanity had just taught it something terrifying. How to be afraid. Their fingers touched. The crown opened. Light exploded across the crater. Elias screamed. Sarah screamed with him. Every human ship in orbit lost power. Every computer on Earth flickered. Across the galaxy, ancient ruins suddenly awakened. The entity entered. But it did not enter Sarah. It entered the connection between them. For one terrifying moment, Elias felt billions of minds rushing through his consciousness. Humanity. Every fear. Every dream. Every act of kindness. Every betrayal. Every ridiculous joke told in the middle of war. Every child asking why the stars existed. Every scientist refusing to accept an impossible answer. Every dying soldier thinking about home. The entity tried to understand. It searched. It analyzed. It consumed memories. But every memory led to another. Every answer created another question. Every human contradicted another human. The entity became confused. For the first time in its existence, it encountered something it could not reduce. A civilization that was not one thing. A species that refused to behave according to a single pattern. Elias heard the entity scream. Not with sound. With thought. You are chaos. Elias smiled. No. He looked at Sarah. We're complicated. The entity attempted to withdraw. Elias held the connection. Sarah understood immediately. If you hold it, she whispered, you'll be trapped. I know. Elias, you'll never come back. He looked at her. Neither will you. She shook her head. No. Elias tightened his grip. Then we're even. The crown began collapsing. The ancient facility shook. The stars returned. The entity retreated beyond the boundary of normal space. But Sarah remained connected. Elias could feel her slipping away. He reached for her. Don't go. She smiled. You told me not to untie me. I remember. Then don't. The connection shattered. Elias woke on the crater floor. The ancient structure was gone. The soldiers were unconscious. The Resolute hung damaged in orbit. Sarah was nowhere to be seen. Only one black restraint remained in Elias's hand. He stared at it. Then his helmet crackled. A faint voice whispered through the static. Elias. He closed his eyes. Sarah? Silence. Then, I'm still here. The transmission vanished. Elias looked toward the stars. Humanity had survived. But he knew better than to call it victory. Something beyond the universe now knew humanity existed. And humanity had just taught it something terrifying. How to be afraid. 6 months after Kepri 9, humanity stopped pretending that first contact had gone according to plan. The official report called it an extraterrestrial containment incident. No one believed that. Too many people had seen the stars disappear. Too many ships had recorded the impossible structure rising from the crater. And too many scientists had discovered that the black restraint recovered from Kepri 9 contained technology older than any known human civilization. The truth could no longer be buried. Humanity had encountered another intelligence. And that intelligence had been afraid of humanity. That fact changed everything. Lieutenant Elias Vance became the center of the investigation. Officially, he had violated orders, destroyed corporate property, endangered military personnel, and interfered with an authorized extraterrestrial recovery operation. Unofficially, half the governments in human space wanted to speak with him. The other half wanted to dissect his memories. Elias refused both. He spent most of his time in a quiet medical facility orbiting Mars. Scientists monitored his brain activity every hour. They found nothing physically wrong with him. That was the problem. His brain was normal. His memories were normal. His neural patterns were normal. Except for one thing. Sometimes, when the room was completely silent, he heard Sarah. Not a hallucination. Not a recording. A voice. Soft. Distant. Always coming from somewhere beyond the edge of his perception. The doctors called it post-traumatic auditory phenomena. Elias called it Sarah. He never told them the difference. One morning, Commander Rice entered his room. The man looked older. The events on Kepri 9 had left scars across his face and reputation. "You look terrible," Elias said. Rice pulled up a chair. "You look worse." "I've been told." Mather smiled. Rice placed a tablet on the table. A list appeared. 7 missing colonies. 3 vanished research stations. 42 unexplained gravitational disturbances. Elias's expression hardened. "What am I looking at? After Kepri 9, we've been detecting similar signals." "How many?" 42. "That's not what I asked?" Rice hesitated. 3 of them are moving toward human space." Elias leaned back. "So it wasn't over?" "No." Rice looked at him. "We think the entity withdrew." "Think?" "We don't know." Elias stared at the data. "Then why are you here?" Rice activated another file. A veiled transmission appeared. The image was distorted, but the figure was unmistakable. Sarah. Elias stopped breathing. Her face looked thinner. Her silver eyes were brighter. She appeared to be standing somewhere impossible, a place filled with stars that moved like living things. The recording began. "If you are seeing this, the connection survived." Elias leaned toward the screen. Sarah continued. "The entity is no longer inside our universe." A pause. "It is outside the boundary." Elias whispered. "Where are you?" The recording did not answer. Sarah looked directly into the camera. "The veil were wrong." Rice glanced at Elias. "About what?" Sarah continued. "We believe the hunger destroyed civilizations because it consumed consciousness." She shook her head. "We were wrong." The screen flickered. "It does not consume civilizations." The image distorted. "It preserves them." Elias's blood ran cold. Sarah explained that the civilizations humans had seen disappearing were not necessarily dead. Their minds had been absorbed, stored, preserved. Every species the entity had encountered remained inside it. Every memory, every culture, every language, every person. Millions upon millions of consciousnesses. The entity was not a destroyer. It was a prison. And something was trying to get out. The recording ended. Elias remained silent. Rice finally spoke. "If she's right, then killing the entity might destroy every civilization trapped inside it." Elias nodded slowly. "And if we don't?" Rice looked at the window. Earth hung in the distance. "Then eventually it reaches us." Silence. Elias looked at the black restraint lying on the table. The same restraint that had survived Kepri 9. He touched it. It activated. A faint silver light appeared. Then a voice entered his mind. "Elias." He closed his eyes. "Sarah? Don't come for me." His heart tightened. "Where are you?" "Beyond the boundary." "Can you come back?" A long silence. "Not alone." Elias opened his eyes. Rice was staring at him. "You heard her." It wasn't a question. Elias nodded. The restraint displayed a set of coordinates. Rice's face changed. "That location." "What?" "It's outside map space." Elias stood. "Then we'll map it." Rice stared at him. "You're not seriously suggesting?" "I'm going after her." "You heard what she said." "I did." "She told you not to come." Elias looked toward Earth. Sarah spent her entire life being told what she couldn't do. He picked up the restraint. "I'm not adding my voice to that list." Rice sighed. "You understand this could start another incident." Elias smiled faintly. "Then we'd better build a better ship." Months later, the first Human Veil Alliance was formally established. It was not peaceful. The Veil distrusted humanity. Human governments distrusted the Veil. Scientists argued over whether the crown should be studied. Military leaders wanted to weaponize it. Religious groups declared it proof of ancient cosmic life. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, construction began. A ship unlike anything humanity had ever built. Human engineering. Veil mathematics. Human computers. Veil navigation. Its mission was officially called Deep Boundary Exploration 1. Everyone else called it something simpler. The Sarah mission. On the day before launch, Elias stood alone inside the unfinished command deck. The stars were visible through the observation glass. The restraint in his hand glowed softly. Then Sarah's voice returned. Elias. He smiled. I'm listening. There was fear in her voice. Real fear. Not the fear of death. Something worse. You don't understand what is waiting here. Elias looked at the stars. No. He closed his fingers around the restraint. But I understand you. A pause. Then Sarah whispered. That's why I'm afraid. The signal disappeared. Elias remained there long after it ended. Because he finally understood the true cost of their first contact. Humanity had not simply discovered another civilization. It had discovered a cosmic prison. Waiting. Not for a rescue. But for humanity to decide what it was willing to become in order to bring her home.